can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. This is better, definitely. So yeah. All right. Well, should we just get this
let's do it.
going? Here we go. Hold on. Welcome to Inside the 18. I'm Michael Magid, live from Hollywood, California. With me, you know her as UCLA goalkeeper coach. Very proud of how her UCLA Bruins are doing right now. 99 World Cup winner, Saskia Weber. The floating orb that we all know travels all around the USL conferences. The one and only Pro GK Academy, Omar Zini. And joining us, another man who knows a little bit about content creation. We have Piteå goalkeeper Conor O'Keefe making his debut on Inside the 18. Conor, thanks for joining us, man.
No, not at all. Thank you very much for having me. I'm a big fan of the podcast, and I'm very, very glad to be invited on. So thank you for having me.
Well, we're excited about this, man. I mean, because, obviously there's a little bit thing called the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I'm going to nerd out a little bit right here. A lot of these superheroes had their own origin stories, and then they had their own kind of standalone movies. And then they all kind of came together to create the Avengers franchise. And I feel like we're starting to create this Avengers franchise with Pro GK Academy and Conor O'Keefe goalkeeping coming together on this podcast right here. Omar, this has been a long time in the making, man. I know that you guys had connected in the past before, right?
Of course. Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Conor's work, and obviously the stuff that he does for the goalkeeping community. So a lot of mutual respect there. And I understand now, Conor, the ups and downs of a professional season. We're going through our downs right now, not a lot of ups, unfortunately, but again, I've always respected the content that you've put out, even through the downs and obviously with the ups. So again, this is just another opportunity to have you share all those.
Yeah, so Conor, so maybe for some of the parents out there who might not be as familiar with your content out there because they're not as cool as their kids that are watching the content consistently, why don't you kind of sum up a little bit what you do online on the social media, even with your busy professional career?
Yeah, so it's something that I've been doing probably for the last 4 years. I started off just trying to document my journey in attempting to become a professional goalkeeper. So I was around 20, 21 years old. I just moved abroad to try and play in Spain, in Madrid. And I looked at it and I thought, not many athletes document the reality of trying to make it to the top. Often we see the Cristiano Ronaldo film or the Conor McGregor film, and you see where they began, but you know that they make it. So I always thought it would be interesting to try and document a journey where neither myself nor the audience had an idea what was going to happen in the end, whether I'd end up playing in the Premier League or whether I'd never make it at all. So that was something that I wanted to try and document the reality of that journey. So moving abroad, playing abroad, obviously that was an interesting story and it brought people some value. And I've kind of continued it from there. I've tried to show, like Omar says, the ups and the downs of a journey as a goalkeeper. I think throughout the past 4 years, I've been a number 3, I've been a number 2, I've been a number 1. And I've shown the reality of that kind of journey as a player. And hopefully that's brought people some value on the way. So I try and be as honest and as open as I can be. And now that I'm playing full-time football as well, that brings another element to it. So it's mainly over on YouTube. I have a vlog series called Keeping Goals, which comes out kind of every week. And then obviously on Instagram and all the other stuff, I try and be as open as I can be. But yeah, the whole point is to bring people as much value as I can and hopefully help them with their own careers.
I love what you just said right there. I mean, this is something that's obviously, near and dear to our heart in regards to being honest with a lot of young aspiring players out there and to kind of showcase to them, it's not all glitz and glamour. And Saskia, I know that this is something that, you've stressed to a lot of different players at the different levels, that they have to recognize that this boring, mundane, quote unquote stuff that they're doing, the journey, it's a long journey, and you got to go through all the steps. You can't skip steps to get to where you want to get to.
No, I mean, listen, when you see highlights and when you see things, it's the end all be all. It's like, De Gea diving to the upper 90 or whatever. It's not the mundane, like day to day, like in the trenches stuff. And I always tell my keepers, 90% of what we do is distribution and communication. And unless you're on a really bad team. And so like that's the reality of it. And so when we practice these things and we train these things, there's a reason for it. And young goalkeepers go out there and they want the glitz and they want to stop breakaways and they want to dive to the upper 90 and they want to do all this stuff. Honestly, it's 1% of what we do. And as boring as it is, we actually have to train what we do the majority of the time.
Yeah, see, I have a question for you, Conor, because obviously, as somebody who's now considered a social media influencer out there, there's a lot of people out there who are being exploitative in regards to their content. And one thing that you've kind of really stuck to, and Omar is in the same way from a coaching standpoint, but you from a playing point of view, is that every time that you've posted anything that you're doing, you're sharing why you're doing it and what the eventual, result is going to be in that final action. Was that something that was important to you from the get-go, or is that something that kind of evolved as you kind of got into that world?
Yeah, I think it was a decision that I made quite early on. I think you have two roads that you can pick when you're creating content. Me and Omar have talked about this before, and especially within goalkeeping. I think you can pick the road where you're trying to get the most views you possibly can, try and be the most aesthetically pleasing that you possibly can. But we know as goalkeepers, that's not how goalkeeping is, and that's not the reality of the position. So my intention from the get-go, first of all, regardless of anything, was to make myself a better goalkeeper. I was trying to help others as a result of the content, but my whole purpose was to improve as a goalkeeper and to become a professional. So if I was doing drills that had nothing to do with that and would not help me to do that, then I'm not helping myself achieve my own goal. But then with my content, I knew that it was very important, almost in conflict with the other type of media that might be out there, which is more aesthetically pleasing, that could be misleading younger goalkeepers. So I thought it was very important for me to give context both on what I was working on, why I was working on it, and like Saskia says, breaking it down into why is this relevant when I am on a pitch on a Saturday or on a Sunday and trying to help my team get 3 points and help myself to progress my career. So that's always been important with my content on whichever platform I use.
Yeah, man, I wish there were more young, people like yourself, because you started out pretty darn young when you started doing this. I mean, obviously, now you're a professional and everything like that, but you started out kind of when you were kind of beginning that kind of journey. And I wish that there's just more out there that would have that kind of that foresight to realize, oh, what, the way that I present myself right now is going to reflect how teams are going to look at me. And, Omar, that's a conversation that I know you had with your content too, in regards to your aspirations to be a professional coach. Oh my, everything I'm putting out there is going to be scrutinized by the powers that be, and I better make sure that I'm presenting myself in the correct light to be considered an actual professional.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, we'll break down the fourth wall, Mike. Mike and I went to Chicago for a coaches convention. We met some pretty high profile coaches there, and they had mentioned to Mike and myself that they had seen my content, and obviously some of them had their own opinions about my content. And I was in that transition phase of, as Conor said, of, we want to get views and make it aesthetically pleasing. But again, you're putting your name and you're attaching your name and your profile to the content that you're posting. And they gave me good feedback of like, look, I know, you want to obviously get views, but if I'm a young kid and I'm watching this content, sometimes you don't offer context. And if I'm a coach, you're putting this situation where these guys are getting tons of reps, and you might know that it's their summer preparation and trying to get their goalkeeper fitness up, but these coaches are just putting their kids through hundreds of reps without have any idea. So again, that feedback was very important to me of like, this context, there has to be context to your videos. Even though the videos may be good, there needs to be an understanding from a parent perspective, a novice goalkeeper coach, what the the reason is behind all this content. So again, fast forward to a few years after that conversation, I've definitely done my best to make sure that this content not only suits the viewer, but for myself, I want to be proud to put my name on something like this. And again, fast forward again to the opportunity I have now in the professional game. They reached out to me and said, look, obviously we have had people who have recommended you, but we've actually watched some of your content on social media, and we see that it's very much aligned with the way the game is going, and very game realistic, and having the goalkeeper, in possession, out of possession, and we like what we see. So again, those conversations sometimes to break you down, to make you realize that you're a little too close to the project. Somebody else has to give you an objective view. And then from there, it's just constructive criticism, and then producing content that you're proud of.
I love what you were just saying right there, Omar. And as Stan Anderson said, preach, Omar. Shout out to Stan Anderson for that comment right there. Saskia, you've obviously played at the highest of levels, and you're coaching at the highest of levels right here. Is this something, because we've had these conversations off the air, when you see somebody like an Omar or a Conor and their approach that they're taking to content, that's the type of person that people in your world go, oh, you know what? These are the kind of people we want to work with, but want to, collaborate with, as opposed to somebody who we think is just in it for themselves, or to, for lack of a better term, showcase how quote unquote great they are.
No, absolutely. And, I just got into a conversation with a couple goalkeepers and I met their goalkeeper coach, and basically the assessment on their goalkeeper coach was that he has one way, it's the highway, and that's it. And you know how I feel about that. And with Conor, with Omar, with you, we can work on things. It's a gray area. We can collaborate. We can figure out the best thing. If I came to Conor with a player and said, what do you think about this? Look at this. We can figure out the best thing for that individual player. But then you have coaches out there that think their way is the right way, and that's it. And that, trust me, they'll go by the wayside eventually, especially in the way things are going. And the collaborations that we have, and the access to social media, and the access to each other, like those type of coaches, they're gone, in my opinion.
No, absolutely. By the way, Conor, feel free to step in any time that you want. You don't have to wait for us to, ask you a question or anything like that. But let's, getting into that, let's kind of get into this topic right now, because we have been talking about the context of the social media creation, and a lot of that has to do with just in regards to understanding of how to put context to any sort of session design or match analysis. Conor, for maybe some people who are listening out there that don't know what we mean by that, what do we mean by context?
Yeah, so I think the context of a session is important in a multifaceted way. So the context of a session primarily is the understanding between the coach and the goalkeeper on what you're working on in that session and how that translates to a match day. So as a goalkeeper, when my coach comes to me and says, right, this is what we're working on today, I would like him to be applying that to why are we working on it? As in, is it something that I'm trying to improve for a match day? Is it something that the manager wants us to work on as goalkeepers in order to help the team to perform? But then in a further bubble, if we're then producing content as individuals to the goalkeeping community, like Omar said before, the context is very important, because if I can demonstrate or explain why I'm working on this thing, that will then translate to the viewer or the audience, and they can say, okay, Conor's working on it for X or Y reason. That's similar to something that I want to improve or want to work on, and therefore they can take something valuable from that session. But as Omar says, if I'm demonstrating a fitness session where I'm trying to improve stamina or explosiveness, and another goalkeeper's right in the middle of the season and all they're looking at is elite performance levels, and they haven't got the time or the capacity within their week to try and improve those elements of physicality, they can say, okay, that's something that I might use in 3 months' time when it comes to my off season, and it's not something I'm going to introduce into my training plan right now. So
see, I love what you just said right there. No, Conor, sorry, I think there's a little bit of a lag time here, delay wise, so you may be hearing me a little bit later than you. So I apologize if I'm stepping on some of your words right here. Problem. But I think one of the great things that you just said right there, and Omar, this is a discussion that, we had, is that if you don't post that session with the context of when and why you were doing that session, it's going to lead to young coaches out there, young players out there attempting to do it in the wrong period of their periodization of their training schedule, right? Omar, are you there? Did we lose Omar?
Absolutely.
I think we lost. Omar, I think we have a bad connection all around, guys.
Yeah. Omar, can we hear you? Hello? All right. Well,
ask me the question.
I'll ask you the question, Saskia. So, so as somebody, as a coach, as yourself, right? You see a session, and there's no context of when it's being done. Let's say you're a young coach and you're just starting out, and you go, "Oh, Conor O'Keefe's doing that. I'm going to do that with my kids today." But you don't know when in the periodization of his training schedule you're doing this. It could have been match day -5, and you're doing it match day -1. It's going to actually be a detriment to your goalkeepers.
Absolutely. And I hate that word periodization, but I live in it. I don't know. It's one of those words you hate. So, yes, absolutely. With us being in season right now, obviously I can't turn around and say, oh, we need to work on this. So the day before we're going to do like breakaways, or we're going to do like 1v1s to go. We're not going to do that. Like, there's a flow in our training, in our periodization. There's rest days, there's building up and breaking down, there's getting Lauren ready and my backup goalkeepers ready mindset wise. They always know 2 days before they have a competition day to get their mindset ready. So, there's certain things you can't just throw it in. And a young goalkeeper coaches out there and goalkeepers are like, oh, let's do this today. It doesn't work that way, especially at the higher levels that you get. I mean, look, if you're a club coach and they're little kids and stuff like that, it is what it is. I'm just being honest. But as you get to upper levels and get to really working with your team and transitioning your goalkeepers into their games and everything, then everything's timing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think, speaking of that in regards to, how you approach that footage and how you break it down and everything like that, Conor, the way that you're going to do it is going to be very different than Omar, because obviously you're still coming up from a playing standpoint as opposed to from a coaching standpoint. So what is kind of the difference in how a player approaches that analysis and the context? Do you do it more in like, this is why I'm doing this, as opposed to like, this is why we are doing this?
Yeah, so in terms of the content that I'm creating, I always try and deliver it and explain that it's from a player's perspective. So I always make it very clear that I'm not a goalkeeper coach. I'm not putting on the sessions to achieve a goal. I'm not delivering a session for a certain goalkeeper type or a certain goalkeeper style. I'm always trying to demonstrate that these are the sessions that I'm doing as an individual goalkeeper. These are designed to help me improve on the areas that I want to get better at. And therefore, I provide the context from a player's point of view, as opposed to when Omar's delivering content and explaining that he is from a coach's point of view in order to work on different elements with different goalkeepers. So I think that's a very important distinction that I always try and introduce with my work as well.
Dude, I love what you just said right there. Go ahead, Omar. I didn't know you were still there.
No, I think no, I switched to my 4G, but no, I think to what Conor said there, I think it's really important for a goalkeeper and for a coach to step into the other person's shoes. Because I know for a fact there have been times from the coaching side of things where I speak to the goalkeepers and I say, look, in this situation, what are you seeing? What are you feeling? And then vice versa, the coach or the player will ask me like, hey, like, what are you seeing? Why are you putting me through this situation? So sometimes the biggest questions come in from the activation of like, I know the activation sometimes can feel like an announced movement, but I'm showing you what this announced movement will look like when it's unannounced. But I want you to try and get that balance moving into that position first. And then as we give you different options and final actions of where the shot may come from, you've already felt those body movements, that balance, that fast approach and slow arrival to that final spot, and you can work your way out of there. So I think it's super important to have that dialogue back and forth. And I know from my content, I went to that tournament in Armenia 2019, and I jumped back in goal, and I had to create my own sessions. And that was an eye-opening experience for me. I was like, oh my God, there are some sessions that I would never run for myself. Like, these are some sessions that, like, there's no, what was I working on? And I think, again, it's very important, as I'm sure Conor understands, like, while you're playing, to create sessions, and then while you're playing, understand why are these sessions helping me, and then vice versa as well from the coaching side of things, of like, listen to the players, get back in goal, and see what kind of sessions do I actually want to produce, so that I can actually feel the same movements or the same exact kind of visualization, visual triggers that I would in games.
Yeah, and I think, one of the good things I think you said right there, Omar, is that, like, you looked at, oh my gosh, I'm putting stuff out there, and if it's not being beneficial to me, you kind of all of a sudden started having empathy. You're like, well, what was the purpose of me posting this in the past? If now I'm back in the trenches and now I'm kind of seeing it. It's like, it's kind of one of the things like Saskia, I've had when I've gone back into playing, and I went and ran a session after playing again, and I went, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much physical load I'm putting on these young goalkeepers right here, because I just went through this right now, and so you really have to be able to kind of put, and Conor, I'm sure you've been in this situation too, when as a pro right now, where you've been in a session and you're like, man, if only this coach understood where I'm coming from right now,
Yeah, of course. And I think, sorry, Saskia, carry on.
No, Conor, please.
I think it's a very important relationship to have with your goalkeeper coach. I think it's something that we've discussed it before. That basis of communication and trust is something that you want to try and build very early on in the relationship. Because if you feel like you can't translate those concerns or those worries about a particular session, then you can waste almost quite a substantial period of time not working on the things that you think are going to be beneficial for you. And at the same time, if you don't trust them, you can see things entirely from your own perspective, and you may be missing big areas of improvement that you could add to your game. So that communication and trust between the goalkeeper and the coach is something that you want to try and establish very early on in order to help the work from both sides.
Yeah. I think I find with what the question you're asking, Mike, was like an example would be the other day. It was the day before their day off. So we do a high load day, and, we actually did like a modification of keeper wars, but keepers are crazy. Right? So they just want to compete and go. And it comes down to understanding, for me, like standing there going, Lauren, I need you to step out. Like, I need you to, like, this has been an incredibly intense session. Let's just work on distribution. You're going to do the serving and stuff like that. Like, I needed her to step out because she'll go all day, until they have to carry her off the field. And I, as a coach, it's not about me. It's about, like, sparking that intensity in them, but at the same time knowing how to wrangle your players in and understand the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is the game this weekend. So, but it's hard because goalkeepers, can we do another round? Can we do this? Can we do that? I'm like, no, go get some water. Like, seriously. But that's how goalkeepers are,
No, absolutely. And I think, one of the things is that when we're looking at kind of, posting this type of content, right, Conor, and you're posting it there, like, what are some of those specific bullet points so that goalkeepers understand, like, why we're only doing 3 reps as opposed to doing 90 reps, where, because again, everyone's wired differently. I mean, I used to be the type of person who would want to just keep going until I did it right. And there's other people that are like, no, you know what, that's the effective action. That's what it's going to be like in the game. I'm going to move on, type of thing. So what are kind of these specific bullet points we need to provide, in these session designs that we post?
So I think for me, first of all, the important thing to note is each individual is different. So like you say, some goalkeepers may prefer to have less, some goalkeepers may prefer to have more. And it is important to be able to, with restriction, adapt the session based on that. But when you're providing context, I think I always break things down, first of all, within a physical, a technical, and a mental outline. So for me, I can also post if I'm posting a session or I'm showing people content, I can say, right, I'm working on this for this physical reason or this technical reason or this mental reason. And then at the same time, the thing that is always the most important for me is the game application. So the most important outline, probably the number one bullet point for me when I'm applying context is, why is this applicable to what I'm doing on a match day? And if you can outline that clearly, then people are able to adapt it slightly based on the amount that they want to do for technical, physical, or mental gain. I think that's the most important way to break it down.
See, I love the way that you just said that, because the mental gain is so important. And, you know, Omar, obviously somebody like yourself who's posting content consistently of not just your own stuff, but other people. You know, I think one of the great things that you've done in the past, if you showcased the thinking process of the goalkeeper within this activity, within whether it's either the session design or the match action, you know, is that something that like you feel needs to be improved upon by more people out there, or is it just something that makes you feel more invested in the posting that you're putting up?
Yeah, I think again, it's super important to look at the goalkeeper that you're watching and kind of obviously what attributes they have, and at the same time too, again, not everyone can be Manuel Neuer, but again, can we take something from like the foundation of his goalkeeping IQ? Can we say, yeah, his starting position is a little bit different here because one, he's more aggressive and he obviously wants to probably influence the striker on the ball or the winger who's trying to cross the ball in. But at the same time, too, once he realizes he can't influence the cross and the cross is still going to come and it's not in an area that he can come and influence it, what is his next movement like? So again, it's just very important to understand those little things and try to offer that in the discussion of what I post. I think after a while, I was like, look, I can provide whatever I can as a coach, and I can tell people that I know this, that, and the other. But I think at the end of the day, it's important to get other people's perspectives. And I think that's what really helped the channel for me, is not just getting my own perspective, but people who are in Germany and why they do the blocks. You know, what is their range? Is it 2 to 4 yards? Is it 1 to 3 yards? So now you start understanding like how other people justify what they're coaching with their technical, technical foundations, technical backgrounds. And so I think for me, that's been very, very important to share that and then have people give me their information and then for me kind of rationalize with it. And I think that's the biggest caution that I tell young kids and young goalkeepers or even parents as well. It's like the information, yes, sometimes it may not have context and it may be bad, but it's on you to provide that context for yourself. Try to understand and see, okay, why is Conor doing this? Why is Omar doing this? Oh, it's a lot of repetitions. Well, I'll have a game tomorrow. Probably not the best idea. So how can I modify that? Well, I like that exercise, but if I take out activation 1 and I just go to activation 3, I think I'll do better. So I think that's important as well, is that we shouldn't spoon feed you everything, but it's also important for you to sit there and analyze it for yourself. And I think you make leaps and bounds in terms of your approach to the training sessions you watch.
Yeah, Conor, is that something that you've kind of recognized as well too, as you started, posting more and more and more, that you started recognizing that sometimes the constructive feedback that you were getting in the comment section from maybe, let's say, higher established players or coaches has actually been beneficial to your game because you're like, I never looked at it that way. Or even if you disagree, you can see it coming from the other way.
Yeah, of course. And it's that type of feedback is important to realign you based on if it's coming from someone who obviously you admire and someone who has had success within the game, they can help you from a player perspective, but also from the content side. So I'm sure he won't mind me saying it, but as someone that Omar's interviewed, Anthony White, who's a very high level goalkeeping coach in the UK, I remember him getting in touch with me about a particular set of content that I put out. And he was saying, listen, this is brilliant, but I think it could be even better if you're providing this context or if you can adapt it in this way. And at the end of the day, it's important. I don't know everything. And I always try and be very clear in my content that I don't know everything and I'm trying to learn and I'm trying to improve. And that's both as a goalkeeper and as a content creator. So if I can get feedback from someone like that, who's so experienced and successful already as a coach, that's something that can help me both from a playing side, but also from a content creation side. So you have to be receptive to that type of feedback. And it's always helpful to receive it.
No,
go ahead, Saskia.
No, I agree. We're always learning. and you have to be receptive. And from a content creator side to coaching side to everything, and it comes from learning from the kids you're coaching, the students you're coaching, the players you're coaching, to each other. And when I run into coaches that aren't those coaches, like, it's kind of funny. It's a very short conversation. Let me tell you that.
Well, speaking of learning,
It's true. I'll throw somebody on the bus in a second. It's not funny.
Oh boy. This is well, that's good. That'll I think the algorithms love that. I think when you throw people under the bus, algorithms love that, and they
no,
jump.
The bottom line is we play. We play our last game, and I got a goalkeeper coach coming up to me going, "I'm so and so and so and so's goalkeeper coach. What are we gonna do about her feet? What are we gonna do about this?" And I'm like, "Okay, you were her club goalkeeper coach. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And what do you mean? What am I gonna do about it?" Like, I was like, how is this a constructive conversation right now? And this is the person I come to find out has one way or the highway, and it's his way, and that's it. And I just stood there like, nice to meet you. Like, you just attacked me in a stadium going, "Hey, I'm so-and-so's coach and this, that, and the other." And I'm like, really? Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Well, it sounds like there's a long story behind that. I feel like
there isn't. I've never met the man before. That's the point. I've never met the man before. I was like, looking
you don't need to talk about Omar that way, Sus. You don't need to talk about Omar.
Omar can corner me anytime and tell me what I need to do. I'm fine with it.
Well, let's do this. Speaking of learning from each other, let's start posting some of these clips of Conor right here. So I want to throw this up here right now, and let's see how Conor can start providing context to his own sessions right here. So we're going to do a little bit of match clips here, and this is to start with a free kick in the 9th minute. This is it Piteå? Is that how you pronounce it, Conor? Piteå?
Piteå.
Piteå.
Yeah.
Piteå. And what's SYL? Because I can't pronounce any of these Swedish names, I swear.
They're called Sylvia, so that's a little bit easier to pronounce.
Oh man, I should have been able to figure that one out.
As long as you don't try it with an accent, it's fine with me, Mike.
Piteå versus Sylvia.
There we go. That's an Italian accent, right?
I know. And I did that on purpose.
No, you didn't.
To mess with all you guys right here. So this is obviously Conor. So this is outside the 18 circle. It's a 4 or 5 man wall. I believe it's a 4-man wall. Ball's driven over, and it's a lateral step and a top hand save. So let's watch it real quick. Conor still lateral movement, top hand save. Brilliant. Okay. So here's a problem on social media. A lot of times, Conor, what do they show? They'll show literally right here to that, right? And then there'll be no context given, and it's tell Conor how wonderful he was in this moment. So let's provide a little context to what was going on right here.
Yeah, so my first thought, as soon as there's a free kick from that position, the first thing that I have to consider is the fact that the ball is pretty much dead center. So I have to adjust where I'm positioning my wall based on where the ball is. It's almost easier when the ball is to one side or the other, because then that makes your decision as to where to put the wall. So I had to consider.
I'm raising my hand.
Go on, Saskia. Do you want to say something?
No, I'm asking you a question. This is actually
go on.
A really, really important question. Dead center, where are you positioning your wall? I want to hear this and reasoning.
Well, they've made it a little bit easier for me because they only have one man stood on the ball. So I can see which foot he wants to attack the ball with. So I know he's going to come with his right foot because of his run up. And I can see, and obviously from watching him within the game, I know he's right-footed. So I know that the natural curve of the ball is going to be from out to in. So I'm going to use the wall to try and make sure that he exaggerates that curve and hopefully puts it off target. So I place my wall to my left-hand side, covering my left-hand post because he's coming with his right foot. So I then take up my position to the slightly right-hand side of center so that I have a clear sight of the ball.
So if there are multiple kickers, no, this is actually a really important conversation, Mike. If there are multiple kickers, and so you're not sure, then what do you do?
So then, if there's more than one, I hopefully have a little bit of a better idea who takes the free kicks from previous research on the team, so from watching clips. But if it's completely split and I'm not sure, then I'll go with the wall on the side that I kind of have a better understanding that it might go, and then I'll set up a slightly smaller on the other side of charges, because if there's two on the ball, then maybe the possibility that they touch the ball before the strike. So I want to have someone else that can charge that ball, and I'll set them up from the other side just to provide a little bit more of a block in case it is the opposite foot that decides to take the free kick.
Okay, so let's scale this down from professional to kids. So if we're talking to kids and you're not sure and you're setting your wall, it's dead center. I know my answer to this, so I'm just wondering. So you know, you don't have the specs on everybody. You don't know anything.
Yeah.
It's dead center. Then what do you do?
If it's multiple kickers, I'll pick one side basically to put the wall off the side of the goal from the free kick. I'll just choose one side to do it, and then I'll take up my position on the opposite side. The key points from the very, very basic points: make sure that I can see the ball. Yeah. Make sure that I'm to the side of the wall so that I can see the ball the full way. The second most important point is don't guess before the ball's kicked. You see so many goalkeepers taking the first step before there's even the first contact with the ball, and then the ball ends up flying in the side that they were standing in the first place. So when we watch this clip again, you'll notice that I don't move until he's hit the ball. And once he does hit the ball, I'll then decide to go, and I'll trust my speed, my footwork, and my spring to cover that side as much as possible. Yeah. If it goes right in the top corner over the wall, sometimes you've just got to throw your hands up and say, great free kick, great finish. But if it is going that side, and as soon as you see us leaving his foot and it's going that side, that's when you just let yourself go, let yourself step, and let yourself fly, and hopefully make that save. Yeah.
I mean, I think
Mike,
go ahead, Saskia.
I think for me, for younger kids, not with all the, breakdowns and everything. For me, I set the wall to my strong side if it's dead center. So I know that if it dips over the wall that I'm strong side right. So I know I can fly right if I have to, and weak side left. So the open side is my left side. So, which, by the way, I have no weak or strong side. I was going to say. I'm just saying, hypothetically, if I had a weak or strong side, that with no information, that's how I would do it. But what's really incredible is how you broke that down, and so now I have to kind of reevaluate all this.
and Conor, what I love about what you just did right there. By the way, Saskia, I feel like you were asking those questions because you wanted a specific person. I
wanted somebody to understand that. I wanted a different because I get asked this a lot, and so I have one or two answers, but I need another answer. And so Conor just gave me my other answers, like what foot? Is it one kicker? Is it this? Is it that? These are all better answers for me. Nobody else has been able to give me. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Omar, you're back here. I can see. So is there anything else you want to add on to that?
I missed the good portion of it, unfortunately.
It was it was why and which side to set a dead center wall. Conor had a lot of answers, which I have written all down, and now I have to implement into all of UCLA. But
very eloquent for just a player, Conor. I think you might have a coaching.
Whatever.
There's one thing that I will add as well in terms of construction of the wall is you'll notice on that wall, my second man in from my right is the tallest player in the wall, and that's something that I purposefully do as well. So when I go to set up a wall, I'll go to that post on my left hand side, and I'll make sure that tallest man, that second in, is the one that's in line with the post. the man furthest on the left is one man space outside the post, just to cover so that they can't bend it round as easily. And I think that's something that's very important to add for younger goalkeepers when constructing a wall, because obviously it's rare for people to teach you this. I've learned this from a lot of experience and then working with coaches. It's not something you learn straight away. But if you can know that your second man in is in line with that post on the side that you've constructed it, and that's the biggest man in your wall, those are quite key details which you can arrange quite quickly before then getting into position to make the save.
No, and I agree, and I will say that kudos to Amanda at this point with UCLA. I don't even have to set the wall because they might take a quick kick. The forwards and everybody, there's certain people that know how to set a wall off of, and we practice even with substitutes, which is something coaches out there and everybody, it's not just your starting players. What happens when substitutes come in and they're like, where do we go? Where do we go?
Yeah.
So you have to train this. This is something that's quick, train, numbers, everything, how to set a wall.
So I have a question for you, Conor. With using a clip like this, if you were posting this on social media, is that all? Would you give all that information, or will you just give only small little bits of it so that people can follow along on why you did what you did?
In terms of that actual clip, it's funny, I've actually used that clip in two different contexts. So in my post after that match, we drew that match 1-1. It was the last game before the summer break. And I used that clip within a very typical footballer Instagram post of hard-fought point, onto the summer break and looking forward to coming back. And I included that clip as well as a picture from the game. And that wasn't with much context behind it. However, on YouTube, the vlog from that week, I will then use that clip and I'll break it down in full detail like I've just done then. And I'll explain the details behind that save, how I've used it, why I've done it. And I think people that follow me understand that when they're watching the vlog and they're watching on YouTube, I can go into a lot more detail. I have a lot more time. I can deconstruct that a lot more. And I obviously then promote that within other platforms. But I think in terms of if it was the only place that I was going to use it and it was one place, then yes, I'd try and provide as much of that context as possible.
I think that's something that's really important that you just said that in regards to understanding the medium where you're posting stuff. Omar, I think that was something that you had some difficulty with in the past, is understanding what's long form, what's short form, how do I condense this or edit this to make it sustainable in a certain platform, and how to lengthen, I don't know if that's a word, extend something for longer form content.
Yeah, I think again, the way that Conor's approached it is through trial and error, and he understands that there are certain mediums that you not lure people, but you give them some teasers. And I think Instagram for me sometimes is more of a teaser for YouTube, and I think he's kind of figured that out as well. And when you get people onto YouTube and they want to see a little bit more information of why they do it, I think that's where, for me at least, that's where I take most of my long form stuff. But yeah, I think again, in these situations as well, what I was going to say in the past is I've had kids send me videos of coaches who have keepers stand still and they throw the ball to top corners. And they were like, well, should he have used the bottom hand? Should he have used the top hand? And I'm like, look, this is a very, not staged, but very announced service. And maybe they're just working on the quick shifting and then pushing. So I think I understand if as a coach or as somebody who's looking at this from okay, why are they doing this perspective? I understand why. And then if you can actually get that movement to be a little bit more, not automatic for the goalkeeper, but they understand the rhythm and flow of that, step, go. I think that's kind of how you appeal to the fractional understanding of what they're trying to do. So for this, Conor, I think for me, it's just kind of like, okay, look, prior to the shot, just hold it as long as you can until you see it. And then once you've kind of seen it, now it's push, go. And then from there, just make the save. For me, sometimes I don't care what change you use, just make the damn save. And I think that's the issue that I've run into on certain social media platforms, is how literal people are. And they're like, well, if this guy did it with his top hand here, I should do it as well. When in reality, like we said, everybody has different traits. Everybody has different strong suits. Like Saskia said, she might put the ball or the wall in a certain area so she can really heighten her, her strong side. So I think that's the important one as well, and why you should always watch something and try to internalize it of why did they do it? Okay, what would I do in that situation? I think from there, those are the mental reps that in a split second you can have a recall within a game.
Yeah, and I think you brought up such a really great point about that, Omar, is that having that mental recall, and the reps and reps and reps, and the more you see these scenarios, the easier it is for you to provide context with your social media, because you've actually been through these scenarios over and over again, as opposed to this is one freak incident and you're like, well, here, let me post this because it looked so cool, but this will never happen again. I want to showcase this event right here. Go ahead.
Just real quick, I think again the reason why I'm kind of like I have a different perspective on things now is because at the end of the day, when you get to the professional level, and I'm sure Conor can understand this as well, is that we're no longer the main source of information for goalkeepers towards goalkeepers in our group. It's a constant back and forth of good conversation of like, hey, why are you doing this? What are the tools that you have? And let me structure what I'm saying to benefit and optimize the tools that you have. So I think Saskia said, like certain goalkeeper coaches, like it's my way or the highway. At the end of the day, at the professional level, that doesn't work. Like these goalkeepers got to where they are for a reason. So for me, I've had to change my tone a little bit and say, look, why did you do this? Okay, I'm going to give you my reasoning for why I wouldn't have done this or why I would. For example, an out swinger from the right side, our goalkeeper recently was at the beginning was not touching his post, but very close to the near post. And I said, look, dude, if I were you, hedge my bet a little bit more. You have a defender who's blocking the cross. It's an out swinger. Step a little higher and start a little bit deeper. So now you can attack the first post, central, and far post. And then recently I watched footage and he's doing it a little too much. And I said, look, I love the adjustment. However, in my opinion, now it's an emergency movement if they try to hit it near post and they not they scored, but you're sprinting across goal where 1 or 2 yards just centrally, you could still do the same damage of influencing the cross and where it's going and attacking all three of those pockets by just being one step close. But no, there's no longer an emergency movement. So it's just like I'm giving you my perspective. I'm showing you and I'm letting you have free reign to do it. And this is why and how it didn't work. Let's have a conversation. And most of the time, I'm never going to say, Conor, you have to do it this way or you're not going to play. But more often than not, I'll say, look, I spoke to the coaching staff. It's not just coming from me. They're a little bit concerned of the way you're positioning yourself. I'm just letting you know. So just make a small adjustment. And then it's up to them at that point to do what they want with that information.
Yeah, and Omar, you have to look at it this way. You're not the only one looking at this. So the opponent is looking at this, saying, look how near post he is. Look how out of position he is. So let's target this. Let's flood the back post. Let's do this and that and the other. So it's not just this like random thing where you're going, I think you're too far near post and we can adjust it. This is an issue. And I'm dealing with the same one. This is an issue that other teams and opponents will exploit. And I agree with you, and you know how I feel about that, Omar. Like, I'm not here, you're here for a reason. I'm here to heighten those reasons and tweak little things. I'm here to tweak your position. I'm here to tweak these things that can be improved. And positioning is one of them. And the reasoning behind it is one of them. So I agree with you 1,000%.
And one last thing I'm going to say real quick. And again, this is like, for example, we the Galaxy just played against LAFC. So, the first team, right? So the first team are the goalkeeper who's starting, Tomas Romero. He was with me at the beginning of the year and then, has moved in with the first team. And so he is probably his profile. He's like 6'1". And if you watch the second goal, there was like a small range in zones of where potentially from an angle shot, he could have used his feet had he stepped up a little bit more. And so that was a conversation, not just of the goalkeeper that I'm coaching, but I said, look, let's watch this footage. I'm going to show you the situation. You're 6'3", 6'4". In my opinion, where Tomas started, you probably could have been a little bit higher on that as well. And you probably your foot could have touched the far post. So again, it's sometimes just having those conversations of like, I'm sharing my opinion on what I've seen from, guys who have similar profiles as you. And as Chris Sharp used to always say, he's like, don't take away the feet to use the hands. If your feet can do the same work that you can do with the hands, there's no reason for you to waste time trying to sweep your legs and get down with the hands.
Absolutely.
So, you know what I mean? So like it's those conversations. And again, that's a lot of the conversations that you don't get you can on social media for sure. But again, as we talked about, sometimes it's difficult with, I'm sure, Conor, like you said, up and down of the season. And sometimes staying and replying to comments and going in depth, it's difficult. But I think that's where I think for me, at least, I want goalkeeping content to get to, where we all just kind of sit down and have, normal conversations. And then you take the information that you hear and you internalize it. And I think we need to create thinking goalkeepers, as, Tim Dittmer always says. So I think that's where, in my opinion, goalkeeping content is going.
I want to bring this up right now because I want to showcase this play right here, because this is an example of something that you see a lot on social media, Conor, and the context isn't given right here. And basically what happens is this is Piteå versus, what's KAR? What is the pronunciation of KAR?
Karlstad.
Karlstad. Okay, so Piteå versus Karlstad. It's a through ball at the midfield. It's a full 1v1, kind of like Andre Blake in the All-Star game in MLS last week. You drop a little bit to create space, forward, big touch, and you come in. Great play, in my opinion. Good recovery right there. But a lot of times, again, just that final action will kind of be shown right here on social media, and you go, incredible play by Conor O'Keefe, and then that's it. And they don't know what happened, how that happened, and why you did what you did. So let's kind of break that down.
It actually came from our midfielder playing a pass, and it deflected backwards behind him. It was a really unfortunate event, which was why my 3 centre-halves were so high up the pitch, I think. And then once he was breaking through on goal, what you said was key, dropping off to create space. If I come flying out my box, I can't use my hands. And it's very easy to do that because you get carried away, you get excited, you think, I need to get there, I need to influence it as quickly as possible, come out and slide tackle him. You make that so easy for him to then take that round you. It gives him more space to work with. By dropping off, I give him less space behind me that he can use. And I also give him more time to think, because that gives him more options to run through in his head. He starts to panic. I'm then in control of the situation. Even though he's got the ball, I'm in control of the time, in control of the space. Once he then makes the decision to try and take it round me in that big touch, that's when I can execute a smother technique and flick that away from his hands. I think there's a 1v1 model which says when it's that high up, you probably want to drop off and react. But I think that's when there's people in front of the striker and he has more to think about. When it's 1v1, I wanted to give him a little bit more time to think. And then when he makes his decision, I can react to that as best as possible. And I was fortunate that his touch wasn't great, but I was able to move my feet and extend my body and to create the touch. So I think creating that first space is what gave me control in that situation and the key part of that move.
Absolutely.
I saw Saskia clapping her hands literally as you started saying that.
No, it's absolutely. First of all, who's the pressure on here? Like, let's talk about it. The pressure's on the attacker. It's not on the goalkeeper. Yeah. He's got 3 defenders bearing down on him. So what are you going to do? Are you going to make it easy on him? Are you, like Conor said, are you going to run at him with your hands and try to solve the situation immediately? Or are you going to make him think? And making him think, standing him up, moving your feet gives, number one, the pressure on him like multiplies. Your defense gets a chance to recover. And now he's like Michelle Akers said to us on the show, basically like, oh shit, what do I do now?
He wants me to make his decision for him. He wants me to rush. What he's waiting for is for me to make a mistake and to make it easy for him. When he gets to that D and I haven't done it, suddenly, like you say, he's saying, oh no, what am I going to do? And now he's got no time to make a decision. So the fact he's been waiting for so long for me to rush out and I haven't is what then gives me control in that situation, like Saskia says.
Absolutely.
And Omar, there was something you were just about to say when earlier on.
Yeah, I think a prime example of obviously watching footage like this of Conor is we had Jonathan Bond, who plays for the Galaxy, and he was on and he was saying that Matt Turner, and he cited a specific example of how it was a 1v1 from the angle, and Matt didn't come out rushing. He held his line and made the striker make a decision, and he ended up making a save. And for me, again, just kind of like backtracking to that just idea of a top goalkeeper in the MLS watching another top goalkeeper in the MLS, and then taking an idea and realizing, oh, okay, like, why did he do that? And then internalizing that. And again, if I'm watching Conor here, it's just like we work across.
Well, I think we just lost Omar as he said that. Guys, we apologize for all the technical difficulties we've had today with the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi gods have not been smiling upon us today, guys. Sorry about that. But we will fix it in the editing for the actual podcast. Those of you guys who are watching the stream, though, I'm sure you've been able to follow along. I will add on a little bit, Conor, to one thing that was being said when you were saying, and Saskia was, obviously, praising you on the dropping to create the depth first before you approach. It's a slight, and I want everyone to see that. I'm going to put this back up again.
Well, hold on. There's a fundamental difference. There's a difference between dropping and being in no man's land and then screwing yourself. There's a difference between rushing out, and which is what the attacker wants to do, and there's a difference between standing somebody up. And what Conor did was stand somebody up. What are you going to do? You can't chip me. You can't do this. So now you have to beat me. And you have 3 defenders bearing down on you. So you have to make that decision quick.
But the reason I wanted to bring that up, though, is just because, again, like we talk about the literalization that kids take, that youth players take. And if we say drop back to create depth on the 1v1, we're going to start having goalkeepers who are going to go all the way back to the goal line and then start trying to run out. So we want to showcase that it's just a slight adjustment. It's a slight drop to create momentum before you come out.
Exactly. I think it was only 2 steps. When we watched the clip, I think it's only 2 steps back. And it's important to keep that in your mind as a goalkeeper too. You don't have lots of time to play with. You don't have the ability to drop off 10 yards and then approach and then close it down. It's going to happen within 3 seconds, this move. So each step is very, very key. 2 steps to drop, a pause to hold, a step to engage, and then the execution of your movement. It's only a total of 4 steps or 4 movements, but they're all measured. They're all used for a certain reason. And I think that's something that's very important to note, like you say, Michael.
Yeah. And, it's so funny. I was just looking at I was going through the clips right there. And it's like, man, what you guys play through, we complain here, like in November or December when we start getting a little bit of flurries, on the East Coast or something like that. I mean, you guys are play through, what is that, a blizzard? You guys are playing through
wait a minute, California boy. Who complains?
California teams do. When they have to go back east. I didn't say you did. You're Jersey. But Omar's teams.
You're right, Michael. I mean, they're very tough Vikings up here. This is north Sweden. Like this is hardcore territory. So those next clips that you're going to show, I think they were in
seriously,
April.
I was stuck in Yavla for a month during the 95 World Cup.
Oh boy.
So I mean, in the winter, I mean, we had an indoor facility where we trained. That broke. The dome was crushed under the snow. There was so much snow that the dome was crushed. So when we eventually were able to train outside in March, it was still -16. Like, these boys are tough. So these next clips that you're going to show, I think, were end of April, and that's the snow that we're having. So yeah, there's no messing around.
So let's go ahead, Susk.
So quick. All right, -16. Okay.
And that was warm, Saskia. That was warm in January. It was -29.
So, but wait, is it in the winter? So it's dark 90% of the time, right?
Oh yeah. And when I arrived in pre-season in January, the sun came up at 10:30 and went down at 12:30. I couldn't believe it. I was having my lunch and it was going dark. It was crazy.
Yeah, but then in the summer, you can't get
in
sleep.
the summer it's the opposite. Exactly. No dark at all.
I gotcha. Okay, Sweden, let's go.
All right, so let's see how we can replicate this at session design. I think it might be a little bit difficult unless you can get a snow machine.
And it's -16.
Yeah.
No, don't worry. This clip, it was only about 2 or 3, so it was okay.
Oh, that's not too bad. So this is Piteå versus. All right, Conor, what's the pronunciation? SIF.
This is Sandvikens.
Sandvikens. Okay. Piteå versus Sandvikens. This ball's played over the top from the outside. You're in a high space. You get big, point blank save, boom, recovery, boom. Oh, great play right there. And a lot of this, in my opinion, is just reaction and just being in the right moment type of a thing. Let's kind of break this down, kind of just starting from here, basically, because I think what happens here is you see that ball being played over the top. You stayed high. You didn't drop here because you recognized you had to cover that space, right?
Yeah, exactly. So my initial starting position, and again, take into account the conditions. I know that if that ball bounces, it's going to skid because of the snow. So I know that anything over the back line that they can't deal with, I'm going to have to be there to help. Um, Obviously, my starting position is higher in order to make sure, yeah, if it drops over the back four, I can deal with it. Ideally, obviously, with this play, when we break it down as a defense, we'd want to clear that initial first ball and it wouldn't get to that point of view. But in the snow, in the chaos, things can happen. And as a goalkeeper, you have to be adaptable. So once it falls to the striker's feet, I'm probably not in the optimum position that I would want to be when he's in that place to have an opportunity at goal. But I have to adapt. I can't spend the time complaining or trying to move into the best position possible. I've got split seconds to make the save. So with the first save, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to stand up and be as big as possible and to cover as much space as possible. It's a kind of spread save that I use to make the first save, and I end up making it with my foot. Then I'm unfortunate that the ball comes back to his mate and he's got a clear shot on goal. And this time it's just a spin and make myself as big as possible. I think it ends up coming off my face. But the whole point is that I try and make myself as big as I possibly can, make the biggest shape I can, be as explosive as I can be off the ground. Omar will talk about this, and Saskia as well. When we're coaching, we do a lot of these drills where it's up and down to be as big as possible. And that's then something that I can use in that moment to then, okay, again, cover as much space as possible. Not necessarily in the optimum position, but dealing with it and making the save.
I mean, I think it's just you trying to get as much body behind the ball that spills as possible, so you just have the best chance to be effective right there. You know, so something you're about to add?
No, but I agree with him. We do these drills. It's up down, getting your body in position. My goalkeepers call them up downs. It's fine. But it's all different positioning that you end up in and getting your body as quick as you can into some sort of a big attacking position, period. And that's what he does. It's like, boom, up. What can I do? And even though, we can dissect this and say, oh, it was bad. No, but you're immediately reacting and getting your body as forward as you can to get the second save. So, and yes, we do train this.
Plus, when there's a foot of snow on the ball, it's pretty difficult to steer that ball into a good area.
And also a bit frustrating when they continue to use the white ball. I'm like, where's the yellow ball? Can we get the yellow ball out? Like, can someone do me a favor? Like, I'm just throwing star shapes in order to try and stop something I can't see.
Oh my God, that's such a good point. I didn't even think about that. Omar, you should have gotten them a yellow ball, like a Pro GK Academy yellow ball to throw out there.
The big orange one.
Soon. Yeah. Merch, yeah, I'll have merch coming out soon. But I think Conor, you made a really good point. I think there's, again, if you have certain exercises.
Oh God, this technical thing. All right, well, we're going to start wrapping up in a second here. But I think what Omar was trying to say right there, is in regards to if you do have certain technical exercises like this that recreate these types of emergency situations for goalkeepers, and that muscle memory is there, it's going to be much easier for them to react and be effective in a game. They're not going to have that deer in the headlights because their body's naturally going to respond in this manner. If you don't I will tell you, Mike,
I do a series of drills, up downs, that's what the girls call them, but on your butt, get up, body weight forward as fast as you can, on your left side, right side, stomach, this, that, the other. Any possible way you can land as a goalkeeper, it's getting up, getting your body positioning, getting your balance back, getting your strength and your positioning back, and making a save. And I do it. And they hate it, but I do it, and there's a reason for it.
Yeah. Saskia makes a great point there in terms of weight forward. That's a key phrase, because from that first save, I'm on my bum with my weight back, and I have to get my weight forward in order to make the save. If my weight's still back when I'm throwing that second shape, that deflection can come off me and carry on into the goal. My weight has to be forward, and that's a lot of core work. And I think the second point is, yes, coaches can design sessions to help that in order to drill those uncommon situations and movement patterns. But it's also on goalkeepers in terms of your strength and conditioning and the way that you look after your body to be as flexible, as mobile, and as athletic as possible. I see a lot of goalkeepers that go, okay, I'm going to be very solid in linear movements. I'm going to be very strong in squats. I'm going to be very fast in a straight line, but they lose that mobility. They lose that ability to control their body in awkward situations. Yes, strength and conditioning in the weight room is very, very important, but strength and conditioning in stretching, flexibility, mobility, plyometrics, those are equally as important, so that you can control your body in those awkward situations and you can be as strong as possible in a situation that you're not likely to be in the weight room. So I think that's something that's on the goalkeeper to be able to do as well.
I never date soccer players, but if I did, Conor would be my boyfriend. Like I agree with him across the board.
That's the highest compliment I can receive. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's beyond high. It's beyond high.
Oh God, I love that. But I love how I had to start with I never date soccer players.
No.
But oh my gosh. That is that is hilarious. By the way, I want to let everybody know right there. I just asked Omar, I said, Omar, you should have just bought the premium Wi-Fi at the hotel. And he goes, that is the premium Wi-Fi.
He's at like Motel 6, dude. Way off it.
That just shows his dedication. At least he's trying his best.
Exactly. Conor knows that lower division lifestyle, right?
Oh yeah.
Really, that's upper division for women. So what's the problem? Don't even start.
Well, yeah, I mean, back in the day, I remember, Susk, you were talking with Michelle Akers when they first started the women's program. You know, they'd be like practicing at a local park. You know,
yeah.
So it's
like, oh yeah.
Oh, we've been there. We've all been there.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Oh my gosh.
Omar will survive.
Well, guys. Conor, I know it's going to start getting late for you out there, even though the sun's probably still widening out, so you have to get those blackout curtains to get you to go to sleep this time of year. What time can you even get to bed when it's so darn sunny? What, 1 a.m., 2 a.m.? Like.
Well, that's the thing. The best purchase I made was a very good quality eye mask, and that was my savior throughout the summer, I have to say. Yeah, eye mask, blackout curtains, anything you can get to be as black as possible. Yeah, that was important. But we're on the decline now. I can definitely feel the fast race into winter. It's getting darker and darker and colder, so it's on the way, as Jon Snow would say.
Oh man, how's your Swedish coming along? It's
getting better. It's getting better. I can understand a lot now. I can hear a lot. I just have to be a bit braver with my speaking. But yeah, they'll still laugh at me for my terrible accent. But hopefully, it's not as bad as your Italian one, Michael. And I can get a bit better.
To be fair, that was a character. No, that was a. First off, they're exaggerated and. Exaggerated, more caricatured for the podcast. Guys, there is a Comedy in English today right after this stream. So if anybody wants to come and check that out, 12 noon Pacific, 8 p.m. GMT, feel free to log in and check that out. I will not be doing those Italian accents or Dutch accents or anything like that. Conor, if people out there want to check out more of your content on YouTube and IG, where's the best place for them to connect with you?
Yeah, of course. On Instagram, I think it's at @Con_O'Keefe1. And then on YouTube, just search Conor O'Keefe. My name's CONOR_KEEFE. And the vlog series Keeping Goals as well. If you search that, you should be able to find me. But as always, I'll try and help as many people as possible. So if people want to send messages or leave comments, I'll always try my best to get back to you. But thank you very much for having me on, guys. I really enjoy the content always, and it means a lot that you would invite me on it. So, no, I've really enjoyed it.
No, I mean, absolutely, man. I mean, I'm glad that you wanted to come on the show. You know, being big time like you are and everything like that. I was like, I don't know, maybe Conor's too big time. You know, playing in blizzards in Sweden.
Conor's my new boyfriend in another life.
Yeah, I'm about to have a lot less time.
That's actually true.
Oh my gosh. That is actually very true. I will say this, guys. Omar Zini apologizes. If you guys want to start a GoFundMe for him to improve his Wi-Fi connection.
No. It's not about his Wi-Fi connection. It's about he's at Motel 6 right now. So like, it's not his problem. Omar's on point. Don't throw him under the bus.
I bet you the first team isn't staying at Motel 6. I'll tell you that.
No, I'm pretty sure they're not.
They're probably staying at the Ritz. So.
Not that there's anything wrong with Motel 6.
No, nothing wrong with Motel 6. Guys, there's a promo code for Motel 6. Shout out. No.
I've been there plenty of times. Trust me. Palm Springs, thank you.
Oh my God. Guys, if you want to reach out to Saskia Weber and talk to her more about the different motels that she's been to in the past, you can reach out.
Oh my God. That's like the worst.
That is actually a terrible segue. That was the worst segue. I don't know. I don't know where I didn't even think about what I was saying when I was saying it. Oh, that was bad. Oh man. Oh God.
Do that.
Guys, if you'd like to reach out to Saskia Weber and talk to more about her fantastic observations of goalkeepers, you can reach out to her at Saskia_Weber on all social media platforms. If you guys have a guest suggestion or a topic suggestion or a hotel suggestion, at Goalkeeper Podcast on all social media platforms, contact at InsideThe18media.com. Oh,
I have to mute it. I can't stop laughing.
Michael Magid, if you want to reach out to me directly, and if you want to check out my comedy tour schedule, guys, michaelmagidcomedy.com. I will be in Wisconsin and Chicago at the end of October, trying to fill in dates in Iowa as well. So if you guys have any guest ideas, or if you want us to come to your town, let us know. And by us, I mean myself and the other comedians performing. I think Saskia is going to be a little too busy with her UCLA teams, and Omar Zini, I don't know if we're going to be able to get him out of that hotel in Tacoma ever, because the Wi-Fi is not going to let him know the text message that the bus is leaving. So I don't know how to stop this, guys. This has been an interesting episode. That is for sure. Conor, we're going to be seeing a lot more of you, obviously, in the future. Keep doing all the great stuff that you got going on. And that is all the time for Inside the 18. And we are out. Later, guys.